Gregoire for exceptional leadership. Thank you. Turns out she can preach too. To Pastor Carey and all the Reverend clergy, I want to say to Pastor Sims too, speaking of preaching. Ron, thank you for your leadership, for being here today. I want to thank the citizens who are organizing the organizers. We so appreciate you. It makes all the difference in the world. And good morning, church. Good morning. Well, let's have a little church this morning. You are here, as others have said, really because the campaign is not about Barack Obama. It's about you.
All right.
It's about us. It only happens, it only matters at the grassroots. And that is the message that the President has asked me to deliver to you. He gets that this is about us, not about him. That this is about our future and our sense of community, and not about any one campaign or any one election. And I want to say just a word or two about that this morning. I really came with 3 points. One is about the President's record, next about the President's challenger, and I know something about him. Thirdly, about the cause. I don't know about you, but I have had some of those conversations in the last year or so with people who don't support the President, did the last time, a little squishy this time, who say, what has he done? What has he done? And I don't blame him. Almost all you ever read or hear about in the news is the conflict. What the other side has set themselves up to block him from doing. Having put division and opposition itself at the top of their political agenda. But I ask you just to reflect on a couple of facts. Just a couple. As Chris said, this is the President who delivered health care to every single American in every corner of the country after 90 years of trying. This is the President. This is the President who found and brought to justice Osama bin Laden, ending the war in Iraq, ending the war in Afghanistan. This President. This is the President. This is the President who saved the American auto industry from extinction, the American financial industry from self-destruction, the American economy from full-blown depression, 4.5 million jobs in the last 24 months. That's what this President's done. The record is long, impressive, and barely told. And when you consider that he has accomplished this and so much more in the face of unprecedented economic and political opposition, I am here to tell you, I am unwilling to let him be bullied out of office, and neither should you. By virtue of your being here. He understands it. Let me say that as someone who came to office immediately after Governor Romney. He's always been a gentleman to me. He's always been a gentleman to me. And I am one of those in public life who believe we shouldn't be about tearing other people down to lift ourselves up. understand the context for these choices and the context that I found when I came to office. When I came to office 5.5 years ago, young people and jobs were leaving the state. Roads and bridges were crumbling. We had a structural deficit of over $1 billion on a $30 billion budget. We had, oh my goodness, stem cell research banned. We had signed the health care bill, but the implementation hadn't begun. And frankly, we had had 16 years of Republican leadership more interested in having the job than doing the job. Let me tell you what's different today. We were 47th in job creation when I came to office. We're in the top 10 today. We are today #1 in the nation in student achievement, in healthcare coverage, in veteran services, in energy efficiency. That structural deficit is gone. We have the highest bond rating in the history of the Commonwealth. Massachusetts is on the mend and on the move. Why? Not just because of changes in leadership, but changes in vision. Changes in an understanding of the role of government in helping people help themselves. And that is a radically different vision than what is on offer today by the Republican challenger. And we have to be absolutely clear about that going into this election. Which really brings me to the cause. And Chris mentioned it in her remarks, Ron did as well, this whole notion of the American dream. That any one of us can imagine a different place for ourselves and our families and reach for it. It's a defining notion in this country, and yet a whole lot of people, maybe some of you, feel like the American dream is up for grabs. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I don't know how many of you here know the south side of Chicago. Not the garden spot. I lived there with my mother and my sister and my grandparents and various relatives who came and went in a 2-bedroom tenement, most of that time on welfare. My mother and sister and I shared one of those bedrooms and a set of bunk beds. You go from the top bunk to the bottom bunk to the floor every third night on the floor. I went to big, broken, under-resourced, sometimes violent public schools. I can't remember a time when I didn't love to read, but I think the first time I can remember actually owning my own book was at age 14 in 1970 when I got a break through a scholarship to go to Milton Academy outside of Boston, which for me was like landing on a different planet. There were a lot of things we didn't have, but one thing we had was a sense of community. Because that was the time when every child was under the jurisdiction of every single adult on the block. Every single one. If you passed up down the street in front of Ms. Jones, she would go upside your head as if you were hers, and then call home, right? So you got it 2 times. Some of you are nodding. What those adults were trying to get across to us was that they had a stake in us. And then understanding your role in community is understanding the stake that each of us has, not just in our own dreams and our own struggles, but in our neighbors as well. That sense of community, that we are in this together, is absolutely critical to making the American dream real. It was my mother and grandparents, just like Chris's mom, saying, you have 3 things you have to be about. Education, education, and education. But it was Ms. Jones down the street reinforcing that. It was somebody else, some other adult, who said, pull your pants up. Stand up straight. Understand you come from a legacy of achievement, and we expect you to pass that on. That old-fashioned idea of generational responsibility. That each of us in our time is supposed to do what we can to leave things better for those who come behind us. All of that was in the equation, in the soup of a community. And we have a president today who stands for community because he understands we need all the players in the game to to win the greatest global competition this country has ever faced. Everybody. That's why this campaign is about everybody. That's why his governance is about everybody. That's why he frustrates even some of you here by reaching out to people who keep extending not a hand but a fist, because he understands it's about everybody. He's not running to be the president of the Democrats. I'm proud to be a Democrat. We need a president of the United States, and we have that in Barack Obama. So I want to first and foremost thank you for the victory we are claiming today. We are going to win if you make it your campaign. If you make it personal. If you talk to somebody, your friends, your neighbors, your family members, that grumpy uncle. Yeah, I see you now, Jerry. And above all, talk to somebody who doesn't already agree with us. Engage. Make it personal. Make them understand that we have a stake in them, just as they have a stake in us. And if we do that, not only will we win, but we will deserve to win. And then the president can finish the work that we all started. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.